Alright, welcome to another episode of Save the Track Bike presented by Hexagon Cycles. On today's episode, this is a big one. I have Esther Walker and Dave Santos from the Aventon factory team recapping the SoCal Fix Series, the first race, the Top Gun Crit. So we go over that, we talk about their wins, and then after that, stick around because we have a conversation with Povey. He is a track cycling coach. And we talk about track cycling, we talk about why you should get a coach, training, and a new program that he's doing to get more people racing with USA Cycling. So anyway, with all that said, let's just get into it.
All right, hi, I'm Esther Walker, based out of San Diego with the Aventon factory team.
Cool, and I'm David Santos. I'm also based out of San Diego, and I ride for the Aventon factory team as well.
So we're here talking about the SoCal Fix Series. The first race in the series just happened, and you guys both won your respective fields. Paint a picture for us on the race for you and kind of how the day went and... yeah, how you ended up taking the win.
Yeah, so it was, the day started with basically me building my bike. I took a little break from Mission Crit in Brooklyn after that. I had spent a lot of time on the track bike going into it, and basically I pulled it out of the travel case the morning of the race, got it built up, and took it for a spin on the block, and went over to our director's house, and the car pulled up to the race, and basically got on the bike as soon as I got there. Well, it was at Mount San Antonio College, which is cool because I had spent a lot of time there back in the day when I was running cross-country track, and I hadn't been back since then, and it was really awesome to have a course or go back for a bike race at the college. And we was the SoCal Fix, was able to walk down like a closed course. We had this huge parking lot all to ourselves, and as soon as we pulled in, you could see all the riders, you could see the course already all set up, and they had an expo, with some vendors, they had food trucks, there was these donut biscuits of some sort. It looked incredible. Everybody's just hanging out, riding bikes, people had their dogs there, there was music playing. It was a super cool scene for, being in SoCal race, and a lot of the guys I'd seen locally made it up, some other San Diego guys, and a teammate who was actually his first race with us. He came down from Big Bear. He's out there. He races road bikes, and I used to train with him several years ago when I was doing a lot more road. So he was down with Quentin, and so it was super cool. So we pull up, and we grab our gear, we walk over, and Aventon had a tent set up, and we had some riders there. Esther was there, and started getting our gear together and checked in, and to see Luis, and it was a super cool vibe. It was really cool to see. I feel like the race is finally it's here to stay. It's got a great location. There's like a typical professionally run race, and it was catered. He did it all for the riders, and I mean, I was just as good as any road race I've ever seen, if not better. And then he had some great sponsors come out. A lot of the riders that were there also were commuting back from the race they had just done in Arizona, which was kind of cool the day before. So overall, it was pulling up to the race and getting ready. It was it's standard, really cool scene, community based, and I was super pumped to be there.
Yeah, I'd love to get your perspective on that as well, Esther.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything Dave said, but also it's been really cool to see the development of the SoCal Fix Series. I mean, it's been going on for a few years, and I've gone to a few of them, like in the past couple of years. I've gone to a few races, and those were always fun as well. But this is even better now. It's the first time they have a closed course, so really you can focus on your race rather than worrying about if a car is going to come around the corner or the cops are going to shut you down. So that was kind of a cool element. And then on top of that, just seeing all the cool vendors with the food and the donuts. It was a lot of the road races and crits we do don't even have that. So it was really just kind of a fun vibe to it.
That's awesome. And you were mentioning before this apocalyptic storm interrupted the first time we tried to do this podcast of kind of showing up and being a little worried about the women's field not, being completely filled out, I guess. And yeah, just how did that ended up turning out?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, again, as I said, I've done a few of these before, and you never know if you're going to show up and there'll be, one other woman or, 5 women. Are you going to have to race with the men? And so this was really awesome. We showed up, and I saw a lot of the women I recognized from the community. A lot of people that I usually race on the road also decided to jump in and give fixed gear racing a try. So it was really cool to kind of see the expansion. I think in the end there was about 20 women racing, which is really great to see for this series. I mean, it's not yet on the level of the fields of Mission Crit or Red Hook, but I think it's definitely expanding and growing, and that was really encouraging to see.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear how the women's race kind of played out for you and how you ended up taking the win.
Yeah, so I knew I had my teammate Kim there, and again, usually we talk a little bit about strategy, and obviously in bike racing, usually if you have a teammate, you usually want to send one up the road, and then the other can relax for a bit until if the field comes and chases them, then you might send the other one. So I knew I had Kim there as a really strong teammate. And then it was also kind of a funny situation because the road team I raced with, one of my teammates from that team came up and raced, and I knew she was really strong. But it was a unique situation in that, in this case, we were actually racing on different teams. And so once the race went off, I usually try to stay near the front just in case, there are any crashes or anything like that. But there were a few early attacks. I know Kim had attacked, and then a few others. And then I'm not sure exactly what lap I went for it, but I think there had just been a couple of attacks. People were just kind of easing up. And so I just went really hard down the straightaway, and I knew I had Ginger and my road teammate Catherine pretty close to my wheel. But I kept drilling it, and then I eventually looked back and I saw only Catherine was chasing me, and later I found out unfortunately Ginger had slid out in that chase, but Catherine was continuing to chase me. I think the gap was holding at around 10 seconds, and so again I know how she races pretty well, and so I just focused on keeping her kind of at that same time gap. I think a lot of people didn't realize she was chasing me, because we had to navigate through some of the drop riders in the field. I think we ended up lapping the field twice. And I think at first I felt kind of bad because I think people thought I was just trying to keep lapping the field, but that wasn't quite it. They didn't realize that there's actually the second place rider only 10 seconds behind the whole time. So it made for an interesting race situation. And that's why I kept going hard, because knowing her, she has a really powerful sprint, and again, I'm really good at the one hard speed, and so I just knew I couldn't let her catch me. Otherwise, she'll probably outsprint me in the end. So it felt like a really long time off the front, but I'm used to that. I really like time trials, so I finished up and then watched the final sprint, which I was really happy to see Kim take that for third.
That's awesome, Dave. Did you get to watch the women's race at all?
I sure did.
Nice. How?
Yeah,
I want to hear from a spectator perspective.
Yeah, Esther did her standard head down and just pin it, and it was pretty incredible. I think I was getting my number pinned up and I was helping Quentin put some bar tape on his bike, and so. Right before that, I watched the start. I had Kim's camera, and I was filming the start, and I filmed the first couple laps. And then I went and had to change out his bar tape or help him do that. And next thing I know, I finished. I was going to go help get some more footage of the race with Kim's camera, and Esther is just rolling. She's got a gap, and I've seen that before when she puts her head down. She started going. And then so as I was trying to get some more footage, she just kept opening up that lead bigger and bigger and bigger. Next thing I knew, she was lapping riders. May have lapped several groups once or twice at least, and I could see Catherine coming, and she was just chasing. It was just like it was like a 30-minute time trial. It was pretty awesome. I wasn't surprised. I think she's one of a kind. She's so strong, so she's definitely, she's at home when she's in a breakaway, but like, especially if it's a solo breakaway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Dave, how did the men's race play out for you?
Yeah, so the men's race is good. We had a huge field. It was probably, pretty standard for, I guess we get a pretty good turnout in SoCal Fix Series in general. And there's probably at least 60 to 70 guys on the start line. This is for the elite category. And then the attack category, that had a really great turnout too for some of the beginner riders. And so it's cool to see both, two really good sized men's fields for both the attack and the elite category. But yeah, so we all got in the line and got started, and I got there just early enough to like get a front row start, and I had a perfect clip in, took off, and I was like immediately third wheel around the first few turns, which was basically a chicane. And for the first few laps, it was pretty aggressive. There was a lot of attacks, and a lot of guys were rolling, and I was just trying to, like the nervous energy in the first 5 laps of these races is crazy, and you just never know what's going to happen. And so it's always the safest place to try to stay top 5. Sometimes you got to do a little work, but at least you're guaranteed to, to be in a safe position to avoid crashes, and you have an out, you won't get caught up in stuff and have to chase. So I did that for at least 5-10 laps. Things were rolling. It was a fast course. It was only 0.65 miles, or was it 0.6? Yeah, it was definitely really short. Some great turns and high speed, and it just kept. Our group slowly started dwindling down to about 40 riders, and then 30 riders, and guys were still attacking, and it was just on for most of the race. And there were a couple small 1-2 man breakaways that got some gaps, but it was nothing super substantial. And occasionally I had my teammates, so we would either try to bridge across, and there was just a lot of guys that wanted to be in the break, so you'd get like that welding effect. So I kind of was just surfing wheels for a lot of it, and I would try to chase, and about halfway through I bridged up to a move, but then also I had like 2 other guys on my wheels, and then 2 more guys were trying to react. So then eventually that move all came back. And so like the men's race is kind of unique. There were no breakaways really that stuck, anything substantial. And we're getting down to probably, I want to say about 10 laps to go, maybe about 15 minutes left of racing. And there was a cream lap. And all of a sudden, like everybody was going for the $100 cream lap, the speed was picking up. And as we were coming around the last turn, which was a pretty long, high-speed right-hand sweeper, one of the guys, unfortunately, slipped out, crashed, and, caused, a bunch of guys ran into him, and I had to take an outside line. Luckily, what's cool about having a parking lot cones is you got an out. You're not going to be hitting any barriers. So Quentin and I took the outside line, and we managed to avoid the crash. And unfortunately, a couple dudes got hurt pretty bad, and they had to stop the race for about 20 or 30 minutes to let the ambulances take care of the guys and get them fixed up. So they restarted the race, and I think we had about 15 minutes to go, maybe just under. And there was a couple guys that had about 5 seconds when this all occurred. And so they gave them a 5-second head start, and then the rest of us took off, and there was a small group behind us. And at this point, there's probably about 15, 20 guys left in that group. And I kind of got the front, and Doug tried to bring it back just because I wanted to have a full reset, having a field together. I didn't want those 2 guys to get away. They're both pretty strong riders. And as soon as I came back, we did a few more attacks occurred, and then Angel Menez, he ended up getting off the front. I saw him go, and I was about, 5th or 6th wheel at this point, and I felt happened. So then I just kind of jumped and tried to get across to Angel, and I could see I had a gap right away, and I could also see that it got strung out. Some guys were trying to come. But I managed to get to Angel without anyone on my wheel, and then I'm like, come on, Angel, let's go. So we ended up put our heads down. I took a couple of huge pulls and, worked with Angel, and we were managed to stay about, 8 seconds, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, and we were gaining some ground like every lap. And we kept working together pretty good, and we were holding a good gap, so I knew that it was going to be between him and I. And as we were coming into the last couple laps, I was getting nervous because he was flying through the hairpin or the 2 chicanes. So, and I was like, he was dropping me every single time. He was coming out of there with a gap. I'm like, crap, if he, if this happens on the last lap and he just pins it, I don't know if I was, I'd have to chase, And so, going into the last lap, I made sure that I went first to the chicane because I wasn't going as fast. I can't do it as fast as he was. So I was able to control how fast he was going, but then it put me on the front. But then again, it was such a short distance from that chicane, that high speed, tight chicane to the finish. So once I was able to take it with one to go, I just kind of maintained and took that chicane as safely as I could, and kept him from opening the gap because he was up behind me. And then I just started sprinting from, that long straightaway right-hand sweeper and took the inside line, kept it tight, and I was able to hold him off. And he rode super strong. He held on the second. The field was closing on us as well. So it was pretty cool that we were still able to stay away. And there's, the guys came barreling in right as we passed the line. The guys were just, I saw the finishing video, and they were all just right there. So it was good, great race, super competitive. It was fast, and we still managed to get a good breakaway going. And Angel does. I mean, he had a good number of teammates there. So, and I had one teammate, so it definitely helped to not have as many guys part of the chase group. And sometimes what you got to do is just find someone with a team and you work together and see what happens at the end.
Nice. Esther, I would love to get your take on the course and also the men's race if you got a chance to spectate it at all.
Yeah, it was the course was super fun. Like Dave said, it was short. It was only, I think, like he said, it was 0.65 miles. So it started kind of on a straightaway, went into kind of a sweeping turn into a hairpin, and then a couple other chicanes before kind of the long straightaway. And the wind was definitely picking up throughout the day. And so on that long straight section, I felt like part of the race, it was a headwind. And then I felt like by the end, it was a tailwind. So you were really flying down that point. And they did a pretty good job of kind of sweeping the course. So there was nothing major to worry about in terms of debris. But it was also just, I'm not always the most comfortable at the tight hairpins, but this one was nice. It was pretty wide, and you could really kind of carve out some good lines. So it was a really fun course that way. And then, I definitely got to spectate the men's. It's nice, when they go second, we can watch and be a little more relaxed. And it was really cool to see our new teammate, Quentin, up there. He looked just super comfortable in the group. He was always near the front for that first half of the race. So that was really cool to see. And then, of course, we were worried once we saw everyone drop what they were doing and run to the other side of the course. We knew that there had been a crash. And so, of course, you never want anyone to get injured. So we all kind of checked that out, made sure the guy that went down was okay before they restarted. And then, as Dave said, I think maybe that was about 10 to go. And so after that, we all kind of lined up and watched them just rail it out. And it's always fun to watch kind of the lines they take because, again, their fields are a lot bigger. And so they're going to kind of navigate shoulder to shoulder through some of those hairpins, which is always fun to watch. And then going into the last couple laps, like Dave said, they had a gap. And so we didn't know. Of course, we knew that Dave was going to win. But, again, they made it exciting by, him opening those little gaps through those final chicanes. And then once we saw the sprint closing in, we knew that Dave had it. And then when the field came in, it was also cool to see our other teammates, our new rider, come in at fifth as well. So overall, a good day for the team.
That's awesome. I'd love to get kind of a pitch from both of you on why people should come out to the race for the next SoCal Fix Series, which is June 24th. And just kind of like shout out why people should come out, and specifically why more women should turn out.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a great atmosphere. All the women are super welcoming, and it's a really cool thing in that it's all levels can participate. So you have people just starting out their first race, to those who have been racing for many years. And again, another cool thing is that the cost to register is low, and you don't actually have to have a racing license. So overall, the cost to entry is pretty low just to come in and try it out. So even if you're not sure if it's something that you want to do, if you've been riding on your fixed gear or even your road bike and are interested in racing, it'd be great to come out and support the women's field. It'd be great to see try to boost those numbers even further. So maybe even up to 30 this time. So yeah, it's definitely a great atmosphere. Great people. The food was great. The course was great, and just overall a fun time. Low pressure.
I've done a handful of these over the last couple of years, and I know every year, like, Luis is diligently working his butt off to try and make it each one, bigger and better than the last. And I'm so happy for him that what he's been able to do for the SoCal fixed gear scene and for all of us racers, and providing opportunities for up and coming kids who just want to get into bike racing. There's such a huge barrier of entry on the road bike side, and it really inhibits new blood that comes into the sport, just because the bikes are expensive. You have to buy a racing license. You have to buy all this special equipment. And the most beautiful thing about track bikes is, there are some really expensive ones, but they're, a really reasonably priced bike, and any bike can get the job done. And then, as Esther was saying, he provides a race format that really allows new riders to come and, try something new out for a really reasonable price. And he makes it a community-based. It's fun. It's, there's great people around, and it allows riders to come and actually race against other beginner riders by having separate categories. He offers incredible prize money too. It's like more than a lot of the road crits. And he had some amazing sponsors come on board, and he said something that, I never ever, not that I just never expected, to see like a fixed gear racing grow so fast into what into what it is now at a local level. And I'm pretty pumped to see where it can go, because Southern California is like a mecca for cycling. We have mountain biking, we have road biking, we have track. We have amazing tracks down here in SoCal, and then tons of in the track cyclists. The urban fixed gear scene, and it has it all. And so by creating more opportunities for people to get into racing and learn about racing, and being able to combine, have a race format that allows anybody to race, and you can race against anybody. And if you're great, if you're good, there's no that category stuff. It's, come and race. If you want to race elite, you sign up for elite. You want to race beginners or attack category, give it a shot, and overall, I think it's just doing so many good things for the sport, and for what, making track bike race or fixed gear crit racing more well known, and I mean, it's just a bunch of fun, and that's one thing that I didn't really see a lot of on the road side, is just the community based. You get to hang out with your friends. It's not like you're on a separate team and you hang out with only your teammates, and then you arrive with your teammates and you leave with your teammates. You never go talk to anybody. Like, the thing I've noticed about fixed gear racing is so much more community based, and you kind of have a lot more camaraderie, and you're racing with your friends, and these people on and off the bike, and not just, racing your teammates, and you don't talk to other racers. That's something I really loved about the fixed gear crits across the board, whether it's Red Hook or like some of the local or regional based stuff. It's so much more community-based and just fun. It's a great environment and great atmosphere, and Luis is nailing it with these SoCal Six trips he's doing.
And he's just such a nice dude.
Yeah,
like
truly.
I feel like he's really in it for the community. Like, not that a lot of people aren't, but like just my perspective of just talking to him on the podcast is just like, I feel like he's doing everything right.
Oh, I 100% agree, and he's genuinely just wants to provide opportunities, wants to provide a great race, and loves what he's doing. He loves the sport. And truly, like you were saying, just wants to, make it as good as possible and have as many riders, help all these riders out. Super cool.
I was just going to say, I think often like being a race promoter and organizing races is a pretty thankless job. And Luis has really, just nailed it on the head. And it's been really cool to see this series grow over the past few years and the support that it's gotten. So really want to give a big shout out to him and his team.
Absolutely. Do you both plan on being at the next 2 races?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure if I'm in town, I'm there. That's for sure.
Yeah, same. If I'm in town, I'd like to be there. The June 24th one is a little hard. We have a lot of competing races that day, but I'm going to see what I can do to try to be there and try to bring as many other women with me as I can.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is a good place to end it. Do you guys want to shout out your team and your sponsors and stuff before we head out? It's easier because you're both on the same team, so.
Go ahead, Esther.
All right. Well, yeah, we want to thank our team. I think Dave and I have both been with it for, is this our 4th season, Dave?
Yeah, I was actually talking to a friend about that last night. I was like, oh my goodness, this is 4 years.
Yeah, I remember the years in terms of our, so yeah, I think this is our 4th year with the team, and we've always had great sponsors. So a big shout out, obviously, to Aventon Bikes and all the great people there. Had a great partnership with them. They showed up to the race with the tent, make sure we had everything we needed. Our awesome wheels, Irwin and the Orange Field. Kind of secret tip of our wheels this year is that we're all running tubeless. And it's dramatically reduced our flat ratio that we've been getting at every race previously. So it also lets us run a lot lower tire pressure, which is great through all those tight turns. So that's been pretty awesome. Dave, you want to shout out the rest?
Yeah, and Oro Case has been a huge help in getting us to races. They, they make these incredible bike cases that are perfect for our track bikes. We can get them in there. You can avoid how expensive it is to fly with a bike. It's a huge deterrent sometimes to want to bring a bike, but when you're traveling for racing, you have to bring it. And so you can add an extra, $150 to $300 to your ticket just because you have a bike to carry. So our sponsor, Oru Case, has been, a huge help in helping us save some money on travel costs because we've been able to fly fee-free with our bikes. And, I think we've had one charge out of 20 different flights so far. That's been huge for the team. We also have Giro Cycling. They provide all of our, our fancy racewear and helmets. Look great in that. And shoes, of course. And then Roca has been our great eyewear sponsor. We did a really cool photo shoot with them a little while ago at our local Velodrome here in San Diego. And super cool guys, and their eyewear is fantastic.
Anything else you guys want to say before we head out?
Just come out and race the next one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I hope everyone comes out and races. It's fun. Come hang out and come say hi. And, we've been playing bikes for a long time and love seeing new riders out there. And, riders can always come visit our team, and if they ever want to, questions or whatever, I'm always here to help. And appreciate you, Josh, and doing what you do with your podcast. And that's kind of what's so special about the sport. There's so many great people in it, and everybody's all there to have fun, race bikes, and share the experience.
And if anyone's ever in San Diego this summer and they want to come watch Dave and I play bikes or even play bikes with us, we're often at the San Diego Velodrome. So another fun community to be a part of.
Cool. Thank you both so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, my name's Lee Povey. I'm a track cycling coach working at the Los Angeles Velodrome in California, and I run a company called Performance Cycle Coaching.
What's your history with cycling and track cycling specifically, and how did that lead into you becoming a coach?
So I used to go and watch my dad race at the local track to me, which was Preston Park in Brighton. It's a bit of an interesting track. It's approximately 580 metres around, and it goes round 2 cricket pitches, has an uphill, a downhill, and only 2 of the turns are banked, and they're less banked than the straights at the Velodrome here in LA. I used to watch him, and I used to think, I could do that, and my dad used to tell me that I would never be as good as him, and, you know, I'm a kid, I had to prove him wrong. So that's how I got started in track cycling.
That's funny. Yeah. What attracted you to track cycling?
So I'm very analytical, and I like things that are really challenging, that you have to think about a lot. So I was a pretty good swimmer at the time. My main sports at the time were swimming and rugby. The thing with swimming is you swim up, you see the little T at the end of the pool, you do your tumble turn, you swim back. There's a bit of pacing in it. I was a sprint swimmer, so there wasn't even really any pacing in that. So it wasn't emotionally or mentally challenging enough for me. Rugby certainly was, but there was just something about the speed of track cycling, and I'm naturally a sprinter, so there were events that were specifically suitable to me, and I could see that it could be something I thought I could be good at.
So when we were talking before we did this, you know, we talked a little bit about how I kind of grew up in this or started cycling in this kind of era of fixed gear bikes on the streets and people riding like track bikes like in alley cats and doing fixed gear crits and all that kind of stuff. So kind of like one of the interesting things about having you on the show is like I wanted you to give me the pitch why people that kind of have my background that are maybe listening to this podcast should get out to their closest velodrome and try out track cycling.
So why should you do track cycling? Why should, you know, fixie kids? Why should alley cat guys and girls? Why should people doing the fixed crits do track cycling? Lots of reasons. One, you get usually 3 to 4 races a night. The venues are pretty easy to work with. You go into a venue, you know where you're going to be. Once you're on the track, you're going to get lots of practice. So you, as I said, you get 3-4 races a night. So you get plenty of opportunity to practice your tactics, to improve your experience and your skill levels. There's usually going to be people there that are more experienced than you, that are going to be pretty open to giving you feedback. It's one of the things I really like about the track riding community. There tends to be people that are pretty good at helping newer, younger riders out. You get to try different events. You can do match sprints, you can do key-ins, you can do points races, you can do scratch races, you can do individual pursuits, you can do sprint time trials, you can do team events. So there's a lot more variation than there is in the typical 60 crit, which is going to suit a particular type of rider, whereas on the track, you can find kind of a wide gambit of races that are going to suit all kinds of different people physiologically and emotionally. So you've got more opportunities to try different things that are going to maybe suit you better than just the kind of people that are suited to doing the fixed gear crits, for example. And if you're competitive, you know there's a lot more track racing around than there is at the moment with the fixed gear crits.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good reason. Because like somebody like me, like I love the idea of like fixed gear crits and stuff, but I don't think that I necessarily have the body type or kind of the fitness for that specific thing. But like people tell me that I need to go out and get more experience at the velodrome because because of the way I'm built, they think I can be a really good sprinter.
Cool.
So I think I should probably do that.
You should definitely do that. And one of the other things about the Velodrome is different categories. So, you can start in the 4-5s and you can kind of work your way up. So not only do you have different events, but you also have different ability levels that you're racing against. And that gives you kind of more opportunities to see where you fit on your current fitness. So you can start at a kind of lower fitness, and as you improve your fitness or as you learn more about yourself and you become more skilled, there's other levels to you to go to, and that's on the local level. Then you kind of look on a national level. You have national championships to go to. One of the really good things about track racing is we have racing in America from riders from 10 years old to 75 plus. So you have this huge range of both abilities and ages that can all do the same sport. I mean, I really can't think of any other sport. Maybe athletics has that kind of range of masters and juniors, but there's very few sports where you can race against world champions, be in the same venue as world champions, be in the same race as world champions, and have such a wide range of age groups all compete in a similar event.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The first time I went to the Velodrome for the taster class or whatever, I think that's what they call it at the one in Boulder. Yeah, for the taster class or the try the Velodrome class. I remember we're all like learning how to do it, and then training was this dude who was training for like world championships, and he was so fast, but he was like really nice and giving everybody tips and like part of it is I think that going to the track or something like that can seem like really intimidating for people. And so I think that, can you speak to that a little bit? Like what can people expect when they go out to a track, or is there something that people should know before they go out there? Bikes aside, because I assume that most people listening are used to riding on a fixed gear bike. So
yeah, so I mean, we share the same bikes as you're going to be riding on the road. The only difference is you definitely have to have some kind of pedal retention, and usually tracks will want you to take a brake off if you've got a brake on, and they'll want you to use drop handlebars. Otherwise, the bikes are the same that you guys are using on the road and doing in the fixed gear crits. I find most of the beginners sessions that I've seen, I've been involved in, are super, super welcoming, really friendly. The kind of person who is attracted to either volunteering or working as a beginner coach, they tend to have kind of outgoing personalities, be friendly, fun people, and really enjoy giving back and making that experience as fun as it can possibly be. I don't think I've ever run a beginner's clinic where anybody left feeling disappointed or like it was too intimidating or that they didn't enjoy themselves. People, especially when you're talking of the more steeply banked tracks, they leave those clinics with a massive smile on their face, because there is very little to compare to kind of going to the top of a steeply banked track and kind of flying down it. Even hills on the road aren't quite the same as that. You don't have any kind of danger element. You've not got cars and stuff that are going to come get in your way. You haven't got pedestrians. It's just you on the track. It's interesting. I often get people say to me that track racing is dangerous, yet statistically it's probably the safest form of cycling. It's safer than crit racing. It's safer than road racing. You tend to fall off less on the track than you do on mountain biking or cyclocross. So it's actually a very safe sport to do. The venues are obviously safe. So I really encourage people to come and give it a go. I'm pretty sure that you're going to be a lot less intimidated than you might imagine, and you'll find usually a very welcoming community. It's a small community, and we want to try to get our numbers up. So every track that I've ever worked at or been involved in is desperate to get more people riding at the track.
I love watching track racing. Like, I watch track racing on YouTube. I think it's just such an amazing sport, especially like watching elimination races and stuff. So I kind of want to get your pitch why people should even even if they're not interested in racing, why they should go out and support the Velodrome. Because I just think that the fact that there's not more like stadiums full of people watching is like insane to me.
Well, I'm a little biased because track racing is my life. So I'm like you, I can't understand why we struggle to get people to come and watch track racing. It's a great spectator sport. Everything happens in front of you. You can watch the entire race from beginning to end. Most of the races are pretty simple to understand what's going on. You know, we have some more complex races like the points race, the Madison, the tempo races, where you've kind of got to keep track of what's going on in the race. But most of the races are pretty simple. The first person past the post is the winner of the race. I think if you like sport, you come and watch a track race, you're always going to get great value for your money. Most of the tracks don't even charge people to come and watch, so you've got free entertainment, or if they do charge, it's usually pretty low cost. As I said, you've got 2 to 3 hours of jam-packed action. Usually the races go straight up one after the other. There's very little downtime in the program. It's not like when you go and watch a football game or something where you have timeouts you've got to wait for, you've got TV adverts that you've got to wait for. The action's just non-stop in track racing. So that's one of the things that really appeals to me. And then the strategy of it. You know, when you start watching it and watching it regularly, you start to figure out how much aerodynamics play a role in the strategy of track cycling and how the cyclists are trying to use those aerodynamics to their benefit or to hinder their rivals. And once you start to figure that out, it then gets really fascinating.
What are some of your favorite tracks you've been to?
Aguascalientes in Mexico. That's my favorite track. It's the fastest track I've ever ridden on. And unfortunately, when I went there, I took a group of cyclists there and we broke, I think everyone that we took broke a world record. So we beat most of the World Masters records. It was a fantastic trip to be involved in. And it's just a really nice track. The people are super friendly. It's incredibly fast. The whole facility is really good. So that was a really good track. I really enjoyed that. Obviously, my home track, or my new home track here in LA, I really like. Another good facility. Again, really friendly people, well-run facility. I like a lot of the tracks in America. There's a lot of good outdoor 3-3 tracks, they allow the racing to be pretty varied. Indoor tracks tend to work well with a particular style of racing, especially in sprinting, where the outdoor bigger tracks allow for a bigger variety of tactics, which is also fun.
I'm curious to get some of your favorite stories, or at least a couple. I know this is a big, vague question, but like, I love to get people's stories of some of their favorite stories or highlights of their cycling career, if you will.
So first I'm going to talk about a guy that I coach, a guy called Ray, who, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this, isn't necessarily the most physically gifted athlete I've ever coached. He's a masters rider. He's won medals in team events before, but he'd never actually won a national championships himself in an individual event. And I think it was 3 years ago now at the Indy Veloplex in Indianapolis. He won his first individual title in the 500-meter TT. So on that track, that's 1.5 laps against the clock. He was drawn in the last heat against the reigning national champion, who also happens to be the world record holder for the 200-meter TT in his age group. And, you know, the guy who really is the strong favourite. And Ray just put in the performance of his life. We got the coaching right. We got his bike position right. We got his form right on the day of the event. He rose to the occasion. Everything worked, and he won his first individual title. And, you know, I've coached plenty of people that won world titles, you know, all kinds of different age groups. And that just, there was something about everything coming right on the day for that guy that was just, I just enjoyed it so much. Just such a great coaching memory. And then about 30 minutes later, his training partner, who was in the age group younger than him, also won. So they both won their first national championships, same day, within 30 minutes of each other. So that was a really good moment for me as a coach and for our team. And that really kind of kicked off a great week of racing at that championships for us. Then I've got a little funny story of my own. So when I was racing back in the day, when I first started, I used to do all of the events. And then as I got older, I concentrated in sprinting. I was at the National Championships in Leicester, which is an outdoor 333 metre track in the UK. And I just won the first sprint in the National Points Race Championships finals for the juniors. This is 17 to 18. And I crossed the finish line. I swung up the track to kind of get back into the pack and see where my rivals were. And I punctured my back tyre. I managed to control the slide. So I was upright, but kind of moving down the track quickly. And because I'd won the sprint, I was still ahead of everybody. So I got to the bottom of the track, and literally the entire field rode over me. I mean, everybody hit me. I must have had at least 10 bikes ride over the top of me. And Leicester used to have this athletics track type of material on the apron. So I hit this kind of grippy rubber material, completely ripped the butt out of my shorts. So now my butt's hanging out my shorts. No. I'm on the floor. Everybody's ridden over me. Like, I've got tire marks everywhere. One of my friends comes up, changes my wheel, puts me back in the race. I'm now back in the race. I finished the race with my butt hanging out, like marks all over me, blood everywhere, just everything going wrong. And to make it worse, the gear that he gave me, because, you know, it's a fifth gear, I didn't have a spare wheel, he lent me his, had a different cog on, so I was now in a smaller gear. So I was spinning as fast as I can and basically struggling to keep up, and with my butt hanging out. So that was amusing for the crowd. And that was not the most comfortable night's sleep I've ever had afterwards either.
No, I can imagine not.
I woke up the next day and I had tire marks on every single part of my body. There was a tire mark.
That's brutal.
So that was my early introduction to crashing on the velodrome.
Well, that's no fun at all. If they go to the Boulder one, they can just slide down, you know. No, it'll still hurt.
So try to avoid crashing, and more importantly, if you do crash, really try hard to avoid everybody else riding over the top of you.
Kind of shifting into your coaching. So how did you get into that? Like, where did that come from, I guess?
As I mentioned earlier, I've always been really analytical. I like studying things. I like understanding how things work. So I was on the national junior team in the UK when I was young. I had a coach. He would prescribe training to me, and it just didn't make sense to me. It didn't match the event that we were doing. The training didn't seem to be, it wasn't specific. It wasn't particularly similar to the event we were doing. And I would discuss this with him, and his answer would be, well, this is how we do it. And that's never been a satisfactory answer to me for anything in life. I always want to understand why, and I want you to be able to tell me why. So I then realized I probably wasn't going to have like world-class potential as an athlete. Started working as a salesman, but still racing for fun. And I wanted to maximize the potential I had. I was already the best sprinter at my local track, and I wanted people to push me. So I started coaching and looking after some of the other riders at the track, hoping that they would push me to be better. And we got like a training group, and a few of us started training together. And I realized I had a bit of a talent for being able to see what somebody was doing and finding ways of improving it. And then after I've been doing this just for fun with some friends for a while, I got approached by British Cycling to help their local talent team coach the sprinters, because he was an endurance coach. He didn't have much experience with sprinters. So that was my first kind of proper coaching gig, was coaching a guy called Jack Kinton Spraggan, who then went on to win the Junior National Keirin Championship. So first person I officially coached won a national championship. Then the next person I coached was a guy called Pete Mitchell. He then went on to win the Junior Under-16 National Sprint Championships and win a World Junior Championships in the team sprint, before he then was part of the the GB coaching program, and he moved to Manchester to be a full-time athlete with GB, and actually came second piloting a tandem in the recent Rio Paralympics. So kind of started there. I realized I had a bit of a talent for it. In fact, I think the first 5 juniors I coached either won or came second at the national championships. When that started happening, then people started approaching me because they could see, I was doing well with these juniors, but then I had masters riders approaching me and asking me to coach them. And it was about at this point, I was kind of figuring what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. The property market had changed. I had a real estate business, and I realized I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. The crash was about to happen, so I sold my real estate business and then started working as a full-time cycling coach.
So if somebody is out there and they're thinking of getting into track cycling or doing their first fixed gear crit, from a coach's perspective, where do you think people should start as far as training goes if they're not at the point where they're ready to hire a coach?
It depends really on finances. I mean, if you have the money, hire a coach as soon as you can. The reason for that is you're gonna remove a lot of the trial and error, and you're gonna have somebody making sure that you start with good habits. So a lot of the work that I do is I'm having to undo the bad habits or the kind of the folklore that somebody's had ingrained into them before we can get them kind of moving in the right direction and working on the things that they really need to work on. So that's down to budget. If you can afford it, I would always recommend working with a coach as soon as you can. You're going to progress quicker by doing that. If you can't afford it, if you're not in the right place to work with a coach, look at your event. Look at the challenges of the event, how the event breaks down, and then mimic that in your training. So if you look at a fixed gear crit, what you've got, most of them have some slow speed corners. So you've got to work on your bike handling so that you're comfortable going around these corners. You're going to have a big acceleration out of a slow speed corner, and that's quite a tiring thing. So you have to be able to accelerate quickly. If you can accelerate more quickly, you don't have to go as hard as the other people to keep up with the group. And then you've got to be able to do these efforts repeatedly. So you've got 2 different things there. You want to improve your ability to accelerate. And when you do that, you want to do that with short efforts with plenty of rest. And then there's a separate session. You want to improve your ability to recover. Now you're going to be doing similar kind of length, short efforts, but you're going to be doing them with restricted rest. So that might be, 15 seconds rest between sprints up to 2 minutes rest between sprints. And what you're looking for there is you're looking to improve your ability to recover from these repeated efforts. Often what you see happens in things like these fixed crits is everybody starts together, and the people that are winning the races at the end aren't going faster than the other people. They're just fatiguing less than the other people. So the speed of the races tends to be fairly consistent, but the people that can keep holding that speed for longer are going to be the people that are at the sharp end of it and winning at the end. Then the other part of those kind of races that you've got is this basic aerobic element, which is kind of the middle bits of the races where you're riding around in between the sprints of each corner and you're just holding this kind of hard working pace. And that would be your basic aerobic road ride where you might go out for an hour, 2 hours, and you're going to ride at a reasonably hard level and improve your ability to kind of cope with going hard for that time scale. So I think, what you're always looking to do is you're looking at the demands of the event, and then you're going to break your training down to mimic the demands of the event so that you're capable of doing all of the different factions of it. And something I see often is people forget the sprint element of the event. So almost every event is going to end in a sprint, or you've got to be able to go pretty fast in the event to get across the breakaways, to chase people down. And people work a lot on their ability to recover, and they work a lot on their ability to hold a pace, but they don't work enough on their ability to go really, really fast. And that really, really fast stuff has to be done with decent rest. If you don't have enough rest, then you're not working on your ability to go faster. You're just working on your ability to recover.
What are some tips you have for people that maybe have done their first race and now they're kind of looking for a coach? Yeah, what are some tips for them on like how to find someone and some resources, I guess?
So, I mean, the internet's great. There's plenty of stuff on the internet. There's some good groups on Facebook. You've got the Track Omnium group. You've got the Track Sprinting group. There's also a huge amount of misinformation out there. So my kind of golden tips for looking for a coach are, the biggest mistake people make is they employ a coach because the coach is the best local bike rider. That doesn't mean the coach is going to know how to help you ride your bike faster, because quite often they might just be the fastest local bike rider because they're genetically more gifted than most of the other people around. So what you want is you want to look at somebody that is good at being analytical, that is good at describing things, can see what you need, can describe to you how you need to do something so you can become better at it, rather than just do what I do because that's what made me fast. Everybody's a little bit different, and they're going to respond to training differently. Some people are really fast responders, and they respond really well to training. Some people are slow responders, and they respond more slowly. And those people might need different volumes of training. So fast responders tend to need a little bit less volume of training. Slow responders might need a little bit more. And what you're looking for is somebody that is going to analyze your training, so actually look at what you're doing, look at the results of your training, see how your training's progressing, and they will adapt that training to you as an individual, rather than someone who's kind of offering what you hear called a cookie cutter plan, where the training plan is the same for everybody, and it tends to work well for people who are gifted, but doesn't work well for people who aren't quite as gifted. So you want to look for a coach that's adaptable. Something I look for, and what I think is a good indicator of a good coach is, are they working with lots of different people that are having success? So just because a coach is coaching one good bike rider doesn't mean they're a good coach. It means that one bike rider could be very talented, and the coach is kind of benefiting off the back of that rider's talent. Whereas if you look at a coach that improves people across, different age groups, different events, guys and girls, then you're looking at a coach who probably understands coaching more, understands human performance more, understands writing training programs better, because they're adapting what they do for each different individual that they're seeing. I also think another way of understanding if a coach is good or not is how good they are explaining what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you keep getting the answer, we do this because this is the way that we've always done it, you should just do this, just get on with it, that's a big alarm bell. What I've seen from really good coaches is often they weren't good athletes themselves, or they were kind of the second tier athletes that weren't as genetically gifted as the guys and girls that went and won everything, and they had to work really hard and really smart to get what level of success they got. Those people often make better coaches because, they understand being more analytical. They understand thinking more about what they're doing, rather than the really genetically gifted people, the real freaks, if you want to call them that. It comes so easy to them. They often don't understand even how they're doing it. They train, they get faster. Whereas most of us have to be pretty clever about what we're doing. I think I definitely fit into that. I still race. I like riding my bike. I'm definitely not the most gifted person that races in my age category. I have to think really cleverly about what I do to maximize what I can get out of the training time that I have and the energy that I have for training and my natural ability. And I hope, and I like to think that I kind of maximize what I can get out of the innate ability I've got, and that's how I look at athletes. Is look at the athlete holistically. What can we do to allow them to be the best they could possibly be? And that's looking at everything they do. That's looking at their training. That's looking at their emotional preparation, their mental preparation. That's looking at their diet. That's looking at their physiology, and picking absolutely everything, their bike fit, their aerodynamics, the equipment they have, every single thing, just doing it a little bit better than we were doing it before. And then that tends to have a pretty big effect on their overall ability and how well they can perform.
So every profession or every little sector in cycling, and really everywhere in life, I guess, whether you're a sponsored racer or a race organizer or you own a small bike company, like no matter what it is, there's always like misconceptions and myths about that. And so I'm kind of curious to get some of the myths and misconceptions about hiring a coach that you think need to be dispelled.
I think, so I'm hoping I'm going to get this right. There's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I hope I've got that the right way around, and it's not the Kruger-Dunning effect. And basically what it says is, the less you know, the more confident you feel about what you know. So the less you know about something, the more you think you know about something. The more you actually know about the subject, the more you realize how much more in-depth and complicated these subjects are. And that, for me, really sums up, physical performance, coaching, cycling. It's a vast, vast subject. And we are still just scratching the surface of human performance and what makes us go better in every aspect. We can still get better equipment. We've still got a long way to go with the aerodynamics of cycling and how we're going to get better positions and skin suits. And so we're constantly expanding our knowledge and also realizing how much more there is to learn. So I think people start cycling, they think it's fairly simple. I just go on a bike, I ride faster than the other person, I'm going to win. And then when they start racing, they realize how much more complex it is. Well, when people come to, say, my sprint clinics, and we do video and we show them what they're doing and we show them what other options they have tactically in a race, they start to realize how much more complex racing is than they first thought it was. So the myth is, I can just do it. I'm a gifted athlete. I just go and do it and I'll figure it all out by myself. Well, a really good coach is going to know more about that subject than you do. And a really good coach is going to realize they have to keep learning more about the subject. They have to keep expanding their knowledge. So while it's easy to look on the outside of it and think it's not a particularly complicated thing, you get on a bike, you ride fast, you're going to win, it's actually massively complex, especially at the highest levels of the sport. And, at that point, you're not just looking for a good coach, you're looking for a team of good coaches. So you'd have a physiologist, you'd have a strength and conditioning coach, you'd have a nutritionist, you'd have a sports psychologist, you'd have a massage therapist, you'd have an aerodynamist, you'd have a mechanic. So when you look at the top level in the sports, you can realize that each individual part of the sport gets so specialist because each individual area has so much depth. You can really figure out how complicated physical performance is. And there's this myth that, you can just go do it, and if you train really hard, well, it doesn't really make much difference, you're going to win. When actually there's just this massive, complex area and so many different moving parts that a really good coach will help you with the majority of it. And as you go up the performance ladder, then you start to get in other people to help in the other areas until you've created this team around you. And you'll look at the really successful cycling nations and the really successful athletes, and they all have teams. They have teams of people around them helping them perform at their very, very best.
What are some of your favorite events in track cycling?
So I'm a sprinter, so obviously I love the sprint events. I love how complex track sprinting is. The interplay between the riders. The leading rider is basically trying to keep the race fairly short and keeping the rear rider close to them. The rear rider is trying to make the race go faster and keep a gap between them. So at the end of the race, they can use that gap to accelerate into where they're using less energy than the rider in front of them, or actually to be more accurate, they're putting out similar power to the rider in front of them, but they're getting more benefit with that power because the air they're going through is less dense than the rider in front of them because of the hole that the rider in front is punching for them. And then they overtake them before the finish line. Then, I also really enjoy the endurance events on the track because although I don't do them much anymore, I realize how tough they are having done them. You know, you watch a 160-lap points race at the World Championships, and these guys and girls are absolutely smashing themselves to win this race, like repeated attacks. They're averaging over 30 miles an hour for nearly an hour. It's just the speed of the event, the skills when you've got 24 riders on the track, all kind of moving around the track. Then you get to the Madison, and now you've got 12 teams, 24 riders, and they've thrown each other into the race, and it gets really complex. They have to know where all of their rivals are all the time. I just love track cycling. For me, it's just such an exciting sport. You've got so many different events. Each event has its own particular things that make it really interesting, and also that you have to think about. You've got events like the team sprint, where you've got, for the guys, 3 different athletes. You've got the most explosive athlete that goes first. You have your fastest athlete that goes second. And then you have your athlete that's got the best speed endurance that goes third. And trying to, pick these 3 different athletes and find who's going to be the best in each position, put them together to maximize what they can individually do to make the team be the best it can possibly do. Then you have to add on that, the gearing that you pick to make sure that they're on the right gearing, so that the guy at the back can get on the more explosive guy at the front. It's a minefield, and I love it. I love it all.
I love that. I think that's a good place to end it.
Cool.
Do you have anything else you want to say before we head out?
So we're just developing, or just about to roll out, a program that's going to be to encourage juniors to get into track cycling. Then there'll be a race series, national race series for juniors, so we have more track cycling for juniors to do. And then off the back of that, we're going to have a national talent program that will be a development program. It's going to start with sprint development, and I'll be heading up the sprint development. And then we're also going to look to add an endurance coach as well, so that we've got both sprint and endurance covered. And the aim of this, really the big driver of this, I've been pushing for this with USA Cycling for years, and finally managed to badger them into starting this program with some outside support. We've managed to find an outside fund source and very generous backer that's going to make this program happen. We're obviously looking at LA 2028, and we need to be finding the athletes now that are going to be the medalists at LA 2028 for us. And we're trying to create this robust program where we have junior clubs at every track, so that juniors can come and work with a club and can get some regular training. Then, as I said, we're going to have this race series that they can do, and then we're going to work with the talent that comes through that system, and we'll be taking them to races like Junior Pan American Championships, Junior World Championships, the World Cups, building towards the Elite World Championships, and obviously the Olympic Games, with the aim of winning all of the sprint events at the LA 2028 Olympic Games. Track cycling here, as we mentioned earlier, it's been a kind of minority, kind of fringe sport, and we're going to look to get the numbers up doing track racing. We have a very healthy masters track racing community in the US, but we're lacking juniors. So a big part of this is to get more juniors riding. So anybody listening to this, if you're a junior rider, you're a young elite rider, we want you going to a local track. We want you trying track riding, try the different events out. If you're doing your fixed crits and you keep getting dropped, it might be that you're a sprinter. Come and try the sprint events. So we'd love to see more of your people listening to this coming to the track, trying it out, encouraging any juniors that they know to come and try it out. And there will be a place for these riders. We'll have teams for them. We'll have racing for them. And then we'll have a national program to take the kind of talented riders on and really support them going forwards.
Where can people find more info about that, and where can people find you on the internet?
So you'll find me at performancecyclecoaching.com. You can also find us Performance Cycle Coaching on YouTube and on Instagram and Facebook. If you sign up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, we have a load of help videos. So we've got strength and conditioning videos there. We've got basic exercises like how to get on a track bike. Sounds silly, but, there's ways to do it that make it easier for yourself. How to push people in a race, how to do a standing start. We break that down, and we've got a video that helps you do that. Then this program, when it's announced, will be on the USA Cycling website. So if you Google usacycling.org, we'll have all of the information on there, how young riders can go and join the teams, how the program's going to work, how you can apply to be on the program. So, yeah, please follow Performance Cycle Coaching on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel, and check out usacycling.com.
Cool, Lee. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure, mate. Great to check in with you. And maybe once we've got the program up and running, we could come back and have another chat.
Absolutely. I would love that. All right, that does it for another episode of Save the Track Bike. Thank you all so much for the support. Shout out to our sponsors at Hexagon Cycles. That's hexagoncycles.com. Shout outs to fixgearcrit.com. The music is Slag Girl by Vitamin Pets. Check us out on Instagram at Save the Track Bike, savethetrackbike.com. All right, we'll see you next time.